relationships are a dance, and masculine and feminine has this polarity, and that's what creates chemistry and great sex.
Back to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health that is the De La Fit podcast. We are continuing our conversation where it comes to our STD, STI awareness month. We are continuing to push and to help normalize the conversation where it comes to being aware of what is out there and just physically and sexually safe. I have with me joining me, and actually she didn't leave, my guest. I have actually two guests. I have Brydy, she is here, and we got finished our conversation with Dr. Cass, who was amazing in breaking down all of the medical terms and things we should do, things we should say, things that I didn't even know. I was like, really? I didn't even know that was a thing.
She taught you a few things. Mm-hmm.
And that's right. I don't mind anybody teaching me anything, Brydy. Thank you. I am a new age 2021 man. Okay. But we are joined today because there's always another side to health. And that is the mental side. And we have Dr. Jeanne. Dr. Jeanne, how are you today?
I'm just fine, SunMoon. Thanks.
So
happy to be here with you guys.
It is awesome to have you here. So
yes.
For those who might not have tuned in to the last show, you might have did some hopscotch, which I don't prefer. I don't prefer you all do that because we have some great episodes, but you might have did a hopscotch and decided I'm going to go to this show. Well, last time, Brydy, you give us a little bit of background on what we were talking about last time for those who are tuning in, since this is your brainchild. This is your passion, and we're acting as a conduit.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind everyone, I am author of Through the Storm of Early Trauma, Healing and Overcoming. And the topic that we're talking about today, it's near and dear to my heart. For those of you who have read my book, if you haven't, please go out and read it. I really wrote it for everyone who's hurting and going through traumatic experiences. One of the experiences in my life that I went through is right after being raped, my parents took me into a physician, and I found out that I had STDs along with an uncurable STD that turned into STI. And I dealt with that for a very long time and carried a lot of hurt and anger, felt like my life was over. And just mentally, it took a toll. I was very depressed for a very long time. So I am excited because we got a chance to talk to Dr. Cass last time and learn, just what it takes to have a normal conversation with your partner, and talk about getting tested. And we learned about all of the medical terminology. And now we are talking with Dr. Jeanne. Is it Jeannie or Jeanne? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. I don't want to botch your name. People botch my name all the time. I'm like, just call me it.
That's your name too. I read that in your book. So that's very powerful. Anyway, powerful book.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you today because it's the emotional side of it that really took its toll on my life, and dealing with the mental. Once you find out that you have, an incurable STD, when it's curable, it's like, oh, okay, got away, and you go on. But I can only imagine, for people just like me to go through such a tumultuous time in my life. So I didn't understand. At 17, I'm being told this news, and my father's like, no one's ever going to want you, and then he makes me go and tell an ex-boyfriend of mine who still was coming to my father trying to ask for my hand in marriage and that he loved me and things like that. And so I had to go right after the doctor. We went straight to tell him everything. And I'm just like, my life is ruined. I was so angry. And that anger is what I carried around, thinking that no good man would really want me. And that's what I've lived with. And to some extent, still have that in the back of my mind because I'm still single today. And so it's very much something, you know, a real topic for me.
Jump in just for a second here, Brydy. You know, I'm sorry that you didn't have someone that was more psychologically savvy to help you work through that time in your life. I mean, A, the trauma of being raped, B, the trauma of going to a doctor and talking about it, and then finding out you had STDs, STIs that were incurable at the age of 17, and then having parents who, you know, sometimes even if our parents have the best intentions, how they handle things is not in a way that helps us have the emotional and psychological support we need. Then to immediately have to go and talk to a boyfriend, I imagine you were spinning, and I'm so sorry you went through that. You know, because how we deal with these things or how these things occur for us and the conversations we have are really important at laying the groundwork of what goes on inside of us regarding, you know, how we carry these things and how we move into adulthood. So, you know, again, I'm sorry that you went through it that way. There are other ways that you could have absolutely gone through that would have been a little bit more healing in the process.
Yeah.
So those are my initial thoughts for you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think my dad just likes to just throw me into the fire. Here, you'll learn. I'm like, it didn't work. It didn't. But I can only imagine just what other women or, you know, anybody really, like a man or a woman that receives this news. I mean, what are the first steps that they should take to process you know, this? Because the doctor, the doctor that I had just gave my parents a brochure and, you know, like, here's everything, and that was it. What are the next steps that they should take?
Well, I think you should talk to a professional. I think that would really help because you need help processing. And like you saw, you know, your parents, they might have had the best intentions, but they weren't the best ones to help you. So you need to talk to somebody that can help you neutralize it a little bit. What I say to people is we are greater than our biggest mistake or our most naive moment. You know, and so for you, it wasn't even a mistake. It was something that happened to you. And when those kinds of things happen, it seems to take something away from you. And I have read your book, at least the beginning of it, and how you've come back into owning your power. So I think to realize and to be able to do some processing so you know this is one piece of you. It's one piece of you. It is not the whole of you. And I think it's to be able to, A, grieve the loss. You know, there's a loss of innocence that comes with, you know, being sexually violated and then discovering that you have something that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. So to be able to grieve that and be in touch with that and to cry about that and have someone who can wrap their arms around you and say, you're still lovable, you're still beautiful, and there's so many more things that you have inside of you. So I think first, it's to get in touch with that inside yourself. And then when it comes to sharing it, I think that sharing these parts of ourselves that we're more nervous about, that we're not quite so proud of, we share them with people that we trust. Or with people, like if you're thinking about engaging in a physical relationship, then you don't share them with the world. And you make sure that you have enough of an emotional relationship with this person before you dive in to talking about something this delicate. Because how they receive you also influence and either adds to the shame of this, or it helps you realize that they see you. And different people have different capacities in that regard. So I think it's being careful when you're in an intimate relationship, choosing who you share with, knowing that you don't have to share it with people that you think will not be as understanding. And you do need to share it with somebody that you're, you know, considering being intimate with. And recognizing when you do share it, they do have the choice. They could say, well, because of that, I may choose not to be in an intimate relationship with you. And you know what, if that's their choice, that is okay, because that means they're not the person for you. The person that ultimately, Brydy, for all of us, that we want to love us, accepts all of us. Yes. You know, we all have dark and light. We all have, you know, these amazing things inside of us, and we all have things that we've done that we hold trauma And for someone to love us, it's to accept all of us. So I don't know, was that helpful?
That's very helpful. Thank you. It's funny you said not to share it with everyone, and I have taken I have taken made the sacrifice to share it with everyone because it's something that I see is rings very true. Just that one of those underlying hurts that you don't see a lot of people out there talking about, but you know that it's happening and occurring in people's lives, especially with CDC and WHO statistics, that says this thing is happening with millions of people, but you don't see that we're talking about it. So you don't know who's hurting, or who may have just found out the news and took it as a death sentence. So now they're going to, go buy a gun and then go, do an active shooting scenario somewhere. You just don't know how it's going to affect someone. So that's why I was like, let's deal with all the trauma. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to be very transparent and vulnerable so that everyone could understand no matter what it is, there's something in my life. I don't know why God made it this way, but that is relatable to someone who's going through trauma. But this one, again, rings near and dear to my heart because it's something that I can't get rid of it. Like it's going to stay with me throughout all of my life. And so this is who I am. I'm curious, and SunMoon, I mean, can you weigh in on this? Because Dr. Jeanne also said something about people who may not accept it, which I completely wholeheartedly agree. If I've had to learn that it's not me, that like if a guy who's a good man is interested in me, and I mean, it comes to that point in a relationship, like I mean, I was with a guy for 10 months before we addressed this part, and I knew he was probably thinking like maybe doubting himself, and he was just like, all this man here, and then finally when we get to that I knew that I would have to share it, and I lost the relationship after I shared it because it was a choice that they made, that they didn't want to potentially have to live with obtaining it themselves. And so I mean, I got over that part, but it's just like, how do you deal with people who don't accept it, right? Like, this is my life. You don't have to live through it. But then if you're with me intimately, then yes, you do. You're like my partner. Like something like from a guy's perspective, just dealing with stuff like that. How do you deal with it? Or what is your outlook?
So someone once gave me some advice a long time ago, and they said to the wrong person, there's nothing you can do right, and to the right person, there's nothing you can do wrong. Wow. And it oversimplifies it, but I know being a man in my 40s, and I remember how I was as a younger person, and I know how I have changed and matured. I'm not looking for the same things I was. Also, my own maturity as far as what my purpose here in life is. You have a lot of individuals, they get into relationships. I'm talking about just guys from a guy perspective. They just get into it because it's something to do. It's what they think they should do. They might just want to be physical, and this journey to be physical. Most individuals, most guys I know who really interested in a real relationship, the conversations are different. What do you want going forward? Do you want to have children? Do you not want to have children? What is going on in your life? And I have a lot of conversations now about that, about everything up front. And it has thrown certain individuals off. They're like, whoa, I wasn't ready for this. And I'm like, hey, if you're not, then that's a shame, because I'm not 25, I'm not 35, I'm 40. If you're not ready for the seriousness that comes with it, then you're not ready for me. So, and that's what I would say for any woman, whether it's my sisters, my nieces. a person, a man, an individual who is very confident within themselves and mature in themselves, they're ready to have a serious conversation. If they're not, be like with Dr. Dr. Jason, hey, they're not for you. It's not, and it's tough, but it's not as tough as if you get further along and then they cut out at the end. So it's one of those things. It sucks. It really does suck, because I feel like many of us have been through that. But now what I know, I really can sit back and say, yeah, I'm so glad. I am so glad now I'm out. You let me know who you are prior to getting in. And unfortunately, a lot of guys just, we're not all there yet, because we're still dealing with what society says we are as men.
Are they ever there? No.
Yes. Well, can I offer something about that? I work with a lot of guys, and I am seeing a real shift. We have this idea, women do, who guys are, physical, or they want this or want that. I am seeing a really strong core depth emerging from guys like you just described, SunMoon, where there's a consideration. We have this idea. I have other guys that I work with in their 40s too that aren't married. They're saying, you know what, I really want to settle down and get married. We have this idea that that's not the case, that it's the women that are looking to trap the guys to get married. I'm not seeing that. And I'm seeing a real, depth. Men are deeper than I think we give them credit for as women, and I think when you really when you engage in conversation,
Can I get an amen, Doctor? Can I get an amen?
I tell people that women will come in and they'll say, I need a little timber. I got this going on. I really want to talk to you about this. And they'll come in and just, bring things to the table. A guy comes in, now, SunMoon, tell me what you think about this. When they've been run over by a truck and they're bleeding and they say, oh my gosh, I need help. But once they're in, I find that they're really loyal to the process, because it opens up an avenue for them to really deeply talk about things. At least that's my experience. Sorry, I took a little side turn off the STD, STIs, but I think it's important. And I do think, Brydy, for you too, it's like a guy like a SunMoon, you have that conversation with, and he's going to embrace more of the wholeness of who you are. And when I said something about not sharing until you have, a connection, I think you are very courageous. You are choosing to share because you are taking a stand, and you are allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open, because your purpose and mission is to help other people. Yeah. Beautiful. And again, like I said, your book is very powerful. So I think that's different than some, like maybe the 17-year-old you that's being told what to do. And in reality, you needed to be able to choose who and when and how you wanted to share that with. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Feeling a little fuzzy, buddy? Maybe you need to drink a little bit more water. Your brain is about 75% water. When your brain is functioning in a full reserve of water, you will be able to think faster, be more focused, and experience greater clarity and creativity. So the simple solution? Drink more water.
A 1,000% agree. I didn't love myself. I hated my body. I hated everything, because I was dealing with, like, why me? Like, why did this happen? And just dealing with that side of it. So trying to even get into a relationship at that point, I really didn't like men. Like, I hate is a strong word, but I hated them. Like, I remember I met one of my best friends, Brandy, and she met me and she's like, so are you Muslim? And I was like, am I Muslim? And she was like, yeah, because at the time I was wearing, like, you didn't see my skin, long sleeves, skirts down to the ankles. And I would wrap my head up. I didn't do it like the Muslim women, but I just wrap it, and I'd always have scarves on. And she's, I didn't tell her what happened to me. I didn't tell a lot of people because I didn't know how, and I felt shame. And I was like, no. And so she kind of pulled me out, and I said, I just don't want men to look at me. I was trying to hide my body. And I remember this guy who said, he said that, you know, regardless of whatever it is that you're trying to hide, you're still beautiful, and men have imaginations. And so you're not going to get past that. And so I was like, dang it. But you know, oh man, it was hard. But one of the things that I found the hardest, and I really truly hope someone who's listening today, that they would be able, maybe they can relate, maybe they'd be able to relate to what I'm about to say. Having the conversation, period. Now, I have to have it, right? Because I have a responsibility to myself and to the person if I were to be physically intimate with a man. And so, but if I didn't have to have it, I can only imagine what it would be, you know, for someone else who, you know, they don't have to deal with that, but maybe they want to be safe to deal with that. How do you start that conversation mentally? What is it that you need to get in your head to be able to feel normal to have it, and face rejection, you know, which could be from the other partner. He's like, what? No, do you have it? You know, did you burn me?
Well, I think part of it is what you're talking about, Brydy, and that is, you know, you have to first of all begin cultivating, and some, I think it might even be a lifetime thing, but that sense of self, that I am important, I'm beautiful, like owning your body, like I don't see you covered up right now, you know, and so something shifted along the way where you own that you bring value, you know, owning your sensuality, owning the erotic, you know, which is part of you. And yes, when you were all covered up, your whole psyche was trying to keep you safe, and you didn't feel safe. You know, you had a blanket essentially around your body because you didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so that as you have gone through your recovery, it's opening up and owning the beauty of who you are and saying, I'm worth it. So that guy, then the 10-month relationship where you were being cautious and just waiting and waiting, and then you said, here's part of me. And he said, oh no, thanks. Bye-bye, sister. And you, again, you grieved the loss of that, but he's not the guy that you thought he was, because he wasn't able to embrace the beauty of who you are and have that one piece of it. So I think it starts with your sense of self, and it starts with your affirmation. It starts with owning your beauty, owning your body, allowing yourself to kind of be single maybe for a while and connect with girlfriends and friends and guy friends. Great to have guy friends. You can bounce a lot of things off of them, and they'll give you a different perspective than a girlfriend. And then ultimately, when someone comes along that you feel that connection with, you know, to choose when you want to share that with that person. And like I said, give them the chance to be a choice, but know that no matter what, whether they say, yes, I want to be with you, Brydy, or no, I don't, that the importance was in the sharing, because that's your commitment to yourself. And that's also your commitment to be that kind of person who is transparent and truth-telling. It feels like that's a real strong value for you. And I think the more of us, my goodness, the more of us that could be in that place of saying, I value telling the truth. Can you imagine what this world would be about? Authentically and kindly.
Oh, yeah.
Just truth-telling. So those are my thoughts.
You asked me a question, Doctor, earlier, and I think you was talking about as far as men embracing hurt, or I think I think Brydy, what you're showing and what you're doing is what a lot of men, in a sense, are learning to do. So, you know, like you were saying, Doc, you know, you get hit by a truck. What it is that first initial, all right, this is physical. All right, I can respect that. I got hit by a truck. I can take that, you know, oh man, but it can also be almost a doorway to, I got a lot of physical, or I should say internal trauma that we're not really always allowed to share. And the thing of it is that, because I've had this take place to me, and I know a lot of women will say, why don't you open up? I'll never forget, I opened up to a young woman, about how I felt. And as much as she told me to open up, she couldn't handle it. She wasn't mature enough. And she instantly stopped talking to me. She didn't tell me she couldn't handle it. She stopped talking to me. If we were in the same physical place, she ignored me. And which made it worse because she was connected and friends with my sister and everything else. And if I hadn't have had my sister there to be like, why are you doing that to him? And she come out to her like, I'm not ready. Then it traumatized me. It traumatized me because I'm like, wow, somebody tells you to share, you share. They turn their back on you. So I'm not going to share. And I feel that's what a lot of men learn in the beginning. I will say that I think women are a lot stronger than is promoted. We're told, oh, women are weaker. No, first of all, you all give birth. That's always been my thing. You all give birth. Hands down. I don't care how much I can lift. You give birth. All right. That trumps everything. But emotionally, there are a lot of things that we're taught because we're said, or men are supposed to be stronger, that emotionally we take shots and it's like, nope, one time, that's it. That's all it takes.
Can I respond to that for just a second?
Sure.
In the future, so there is that tendency to shut down. Something happens, and it happened with you too, Brydy. You shut down, because we're afraid and we're putting on our armor. So as you move forward, I invite you to share a little bit at a time and see how whoever you're in relationship with next can be with that. Because when you share, that's what I talked about, the intimacy of sharing. You are trusting somebody with an important part of yourself, and they need to demonstrate to you that they are trustworthy. So it doesn't come back on you when you're in a fight, which I hear happen. A lot of guys complain about that. Oh yeah, we got in that fight and she throws it up in my face. She won't let it go. Again, same thing. She told me to share, but it keeps coming back. So share little bits that aren't quite as important before you get to sharing the big stuff, and make sure that you're in a relationship with someone mature enough that she can be with those parts of you. And then, as you choose to open up, again, I think opening up and sharing is really a gift that you give someone, and you want to be sure someone can receive that gift in a way that honors and respects you, and not in a way that tears it down.
Yeah, not everybody should be able to get, all of you, as so it's definitely a conversation that I wish that we could have more and talk about more on just so many levels, just in the world. Like if we have a festival, maybe there's a show, I mean, maybe there's an educational session and we're talking about this, on television. Like, I just want us to start talking about it, because I think the more people start talking about things that aren't that are taboo, and we stop pretending that everyone's walking around and we're okay. We're not. We're not, and we have to talk more about it. But there was the couple skit that was done. I don't know if you're gonna play it before or during, but listen to that skit, because I feel as though it's so hard I don't know if being a man, but for a woman to come in, I'm shaking, everything. I'm sweating. Like, you okay? Let me drink some water. Like, having that conversation, that initial, oh my God, I have to have it, can't sleep, and going in, and I'm like, okay, well, I just want to talk to you about something, blah, blah, blah. I remember in the beginning when I first started being just initially responsible to have those conversations, because I didn't really know it was that serious. That was the other thing. The doctor didn't say, no, you need to have this every single person. But when I started having the conversations in my mid-20s, I was like, are you sitting down? Like, I made it so dramatic. They're like, what happened? I'm like, or the infamous words, we need to talk.
Men love those words.
No man likes to hear.
And then it was like, wait, where'd you go? He's not responding to my So like, how do you recommend, like, people go in and they just just about getting tested, period, right? Doctors say safe sex. The talk is out there. have safe sex, but how do you gain the courage to talk about it? Because that right there is hard, because you don't want to be the person, especially for like as a female, I'm like coming into the relationship, I really like this guy, and I'm really physically attracted to him, and I want to have sex, but I really don't know where he's been, so we're going to use a condom. How do I tell him, hey, wrap it up? Or how do I tell him, can we get an STI test? Like, you know what I'm saying? It sounds like, do you have some examples?
Yeah, I mean,
I like to wrap it up.
You're right. I love, hey, wrap it up. I think that's perfect. You got it right there. Hey, wrap it up, dude. I think the truth is you have the conversation before you get to the moment where you're aching, all the hormones are running through you and you want to have sex right then. That's not the time to have the conversation, because the likelihood of you having it, diminishes a little bit.
They Love It podcast is sponsored by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, Recovery for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out www.mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life.
Relationships are a dance, and masculine and feminine has this polarity, and that's what creates chemistry and great sex. And, you want to have a conversation also. You also want, especially as you get a little bit older, you're not 18, and you want to be connecting with somebody that can meet you where you are. Now, sometimes it's just sex, but more often as you age, you want a little bit more than that. So I think it's talking in advance about making it part of a conversation. Hey, where do you see this going? I'm attracted to you, or there's this attraction between us, and what are your thoughts on sex? And then you start leading into the conversation then. And I really believe in safe sex, wrapping it up, buddy. I mean, I think that is such a way of just, he can chuckle at that and you can chuckle at that, but you have the conversation in advance. So they know, he knows, inside of yourself too. You're also priming yourself for that. That you guys have had this conversation that we're not going to have sex without this, and I think that is where you're able to take the sting out of it by having the conversation in advance. And that way, when it gets to it, you kind of have an agreement. And if he's like, oh man, I hate those things. Yeah, I know, me too. But it's just one of the things that for me, it's real important.
Yeah. And you take a stand. I mean, ladies, I can't say how many times I've had to take a stand and just, hey, this is what's happening, and this is my body and I love it. And, especially if and I'm not gonna say like I'm in love with the other guy, but obviously if we're at that moment, like I care about him a lot, and if I care about him, I care about his body too, right? So I think that those are some great points you made. It's just to have that conversation leading up to it. I love that. I'm gonna try that whenever, I don't know, I kind of put a stigma over my head with, no, I'm not going to say that. I joke around about it, but I got to stop doing that. Like my book has just read
the book. I want to add something to you said, Brydy. You said something that I feel is very important. And you said that you care about your body, but you also care about his body. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot of guys that haven't learned to really give a damn about their own bodies. I mean, it's sad because, I have friends, guys I grew up with, and growing up in Philadelphia, where I did, you know, in the 90s, it's a different mentality than now. I feel as much as the young people deal with a lot of things, I think they have a lot more resources available. I was blessed. I had really good family behind me, but I had friends and they had role models. I'm throwing up the air quotes for out there, everybody out there listening, that their role models were garbage. And I'm just gonna put it out there. It was taught, you know, you go out there and you like a girl and you know you put it down no matter what. And it's like, do you care about what happens? Well, yeah, you know, wrap it up, you know, do what you do, but you know, if something happens, and it's like real clumsy. And unfortunately, that mentality, if not checked, or if there isn't somebody else that individual respects, it can stay like that for a long time. And I've seen guys who have children, multiple children, you know, and not because they're intentionally wanted children. They love their children, but it's like, if I'd have realized what I truly was doing, what I truly was getting involved in, what I was truly putting my body into, that there were deeper feelings and emotions. They're only coming to this because now they've got daughters. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they don't want their daughters to be and interact with what they were. So that's something else I think to also put out there, is the fact that sometimes a lot of the men don't know how to care about themselves because they're not taught how to care. Mm-hmm. There's only 3 things most guys, maybe not now, were taught to be a successful guy: have a good job, get your own place, have a car.
So it sounds like that started in childhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times, yeah.
So Dr. Jeanne, like, why do you think? What do you think's behind that?
I think part of it's absentee fathers, or fathers who don't really, who were not fathered well, you know, and they don't know, and they don't have the courageous conversations with their son, and they don't talk about what it takes to be a man. You know, I hear you're saying the car, getting your own place, and having a good job, and probably having I don't know if having a pretty woman or whatever is on the list as well. But
that's there. You're right.
I think you're not taught. And I believe that people like you, SunMoon, who are out there doing these podcasts, and who you seem like you're committed to educating guys, and having, you know, not just educating, but talking about it. I think we need to continue to have the conversations like these, you know, so we're putting it out there. So you as a man are standing up and saying, hey, I was this in my 20s, but now that I'm in my 40s, I'm going in there real strong with those conversations. And sometimes I even throw the women off guard because they're not expecting that from me. And I think somehow to be able to mentor the younger guys, I mean, you look at what's on the internet right now, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, there's some funny, cool things, but there's also some ways of being that set role models for these young guys is not quite so positive regarding their relationships with women. So I don't know, as a man, I would like to throw that back to you, SunMoon. How do you see your role in this, you know, in helping to educate, or being with other, mentoring and being a role model for other men?
Actually, that's one of the things I did before the pandemic. Everything kind of closed down. I worked as a mentor for teenagers. So I've had conversations with a lot of teenagers and trying to get them out of the mentality of what the neighborhood tells them is acceptable, or what social media tells them is acceptable. It's tough. It's a very difficult thing, and it's generational. Brydy, you made a statement dealing with your father. I don't know when your father was born, but as traumatic as how he came about everything, I can only imagine what he was taught and the things that was traumatic that he went through. My father was born in 1939. There are conversations that I'll have with him, and I'm just like, wow, you know, and he's done incredibly well for the trauma that he has seen. And his vision for me, and it makes me emotional, is the fact of he wanted to be better than what he saw. So I'm just thinking from the fact of how your father approached it. I don't know how many crushed dreams, broken hearts, situations where they told him, nah, bone up, man up. This is how it is, homie. And it hurts. That's the other side that a lot of men don't get to say. A lot of us are crushed inside. That's why we can do such traumatic things, because we're crushed, and I don't want to see, again, it's 2021. I don't want to see this interaction between men and women anymore. It doesn't need to happen. Why can't we communicate in a much better way? And if we can have these type of conversations and open dialogue where we can actually get past the posturing, I will have these conversations and be as uncomfortable and say about things, because I've said some stupid things to women in my day, and I'll be like, oh God.
Well, you hear it on the radio waves on MTV, BET, when they had the music videos all the time. They were these rappers out there degrading us as women and saying, I remember this song that came out, was it 69 Boys, and they had a song called Here Kitty Kitty, Here Kitty Kitty.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember a grown man doing that to me as I was walking into the store. I'm like 12 years old, and I'm like, what?
But
what is going on?
Here's something about that. In just 2 to 3 weeks, 3 rappers in their 50s have died. In their 50s.
Yeah.
Last year we had, these are individuals who are only 10 years older than me. I'm sorry, there's a fruit fly flying around me. These individuals, just from that mentality, how did they live? You find out a lot of things about how these individuals lived, and they did not have the best fulfilling life that would allow them to blossom, grow, mature. Some of them mature only when they were able to have resources to mature. And honestly, again, if we take it back to the 90s, MTV Cribs, and a whole bunch of other Spring Break.
The Spring Break videos. God.
So many things that went on that you're just like, oh, this is a recipe for disaster. So
yeah. I think we heard more about Playboy too growing up. Lots of Playboy that kind of
don't even
get me
started in that conversation. And the conversation that you've initially sat down and talked to me about, I think has opened us up to something much broader. We're talking about STDs, STIs. We're talking about this conversation, but I feel, and Doctor, you can tell me or confirm this if it's true or not. I think it's a much deeper conversation in the fact of just communication, period. We have not been talking. And
absolutely. I have something that I firmly believe in, and I call it courageous conversations. I do a lot of work with infidelity too. And I tell people, if you're afraid to have a conversation at the beginning when you're thinking about somebody else, think of how much worse the conversation is when you get caught cheating. They're hard conversations to have, but out of it, you can break something open and you can actually make your relationship better, but it's not easy. So we're afraid of being rejected. We feel like we're not seen by the other person. So instead of talking to them, someone else walks by and kind of catches our eye, and we're like, oh, well, you know what? I think that person likes me more. Or you get affirmed by that person, and you forget about this person that you've been in a relationship with for a while, or, so yes, I agree. We are not having the conversations. That's why forums like this are so important. And I love talking to you. I think that there's a synergy and there's an energy, and we each bring something to the table, and to be able to be open and transparent and talk is how we create change, or how we each become in our own way, a role model, or as you said, Brydy, too, you know, if you can put something out there that some young girl or some young guy, or not even young, even sometimes it's the older ones that are more stubborn, that we can, you know, they can hear something and go, oh yeah, or oh, I did that, or oh yeah, I'm not having that conversation, or I matter. I matter. So I am going to have that conversation before, you know, things get heated and we just have sex and I go, oh my gosh, did I expose myself to anything?
Exactly.
You know,
after the fact.
After the fact. And then you kind of freak out. It was really good. And then, or not, but, you know, and then afterwards you kind of freak out and say, oh my God, you know, what the hell? Because one moment, and it's hard because the hormones and the passion and the chemistry, you know, but man, that's why you got to have the conversation first before you're in that moment, you know, because you don't want to, you know, look back on something and say, I wish I would have.
Right. So yeah, me. So as an adult, and just like, you know, just I'm gonna say, and Dr. Jeanne, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess 18 and older, like just having meaningful and valuable conversations, knowing how to talk about sex. But seeing that there's teenage pregnancies so just rampant across the United States, I do have to bring up the schools talking about it and communicating. And I do have to bring up parents understanding the schools need to talk about it and communicating. Definitely, I think, you know, I got the talk essentially, you know, about, you know, my menstrual cycle at 13. But I didn't get the talk, you know, I got, you know, the birds and the bees kind of just like, this is how it happens. And I felt super awkward and uncomfortable. But I didn't get details. It was just like, this is something you don't have to worry about until you are out of this house and you're married. And so it was kind of like, that's it. There's nothing else to talk about. But I didn't get any talk about STDs or STIs. I didn't get, I think like, I did at a recreation center where a nurse came in and showed, we were all in the same room. So it was like that shock value, but you know, she had a male genital model there and a female, and this is how you put on female condoms and this is how you put on male condoms. And we were like, ew. And she was like, and we were like, oh, that's you. And you're, it was, but that's how we learned about it. And I'm like, oh God, they didn't talk about it at my school. So, you know, is there any information or advice that you could give parents on the importance of having the talk a little earlier and the type of talk, not the traumatize? I will say I traumatized my son probably. I showed him every horrible picture of STD. And he's like, okay, Mom, I don't want to. But, you know, how do you have that talk for the parents who may have some mental anguish about having the talk with their kids? And at what age? Especially nowadays where, you know, the kids growing up have the world in the palm of their hands. They can get anywhere, you know, in the matter of seconds. So what age is appropriate to have that talk, and how do you start it? What do you talk about?
Well, I think that's a really good question. And I don't think it's an age necessarily. I think it depends on the kid and the maturity level of that child and the exposure. I mean, you hear kids starting to repeat and sing songs and do phrases, rap phrases or whatever that they hear on, you know, this guy is, you know, the TikTok dude. I think TikTok is where they hear a lot of it. I think it's just sit down when you start noticing. Again, that's a courageous conversation to have too. It's saying, hey, you know what, I'm hearing this and I want to talk a little bit about sex. And you know, the kid's kind of like this or whatever, especially if it's mom to son, I'm sure, you know, you're showing him all the pictures. I don't mean to laugh, but I can just imagine your son, just like your parents traumatized you. We traumatize them in different ways, you know, 1 and 2 information. You know, my mom told me about sex when I was in 1st grade because her parents never told her and it scared her. And so I'm sitting here in 1st grade and people are talking about things. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Anyway, we all have the traumas. I think it's to look up resources, and I wish I had one for you right now. I can look it up and you know, maybe come up with some, but there are resources. There are YouTube videos. I would do that research and look and find one that you feel comfortable with, especially taking into consideration your particular unique child, boy, girl, whatever. And then just sitting down and doing it. and knowing that there's no wrong way. If your child starts to feel uncomfortable, it's just to say, hey, these are important things. And it's not just the physical, it's also the emotional. I love what you said about protecting your body. You protect your body, but you're also protecting someone else. It's like that whole wearing a mask thing. You wear a mask also for other people.
Yes.
It's like, don't argue against that. Here's what you do to help protect yourself and the other person physically. And also there's there's some other things that stir emotionally inside of you too, after you have this. So being willing to try it and being willing to not do it the best way, because if you're trying to make it perfect, you might never have the talk, and it's not going to be perfect. And does that help? And again, if I can come up with any resources, but I'd say look online and find something that you really feel comfortable with that helps you kind of orchestrate that talk. But the importance is, I think, having it.
Hello, digital family. My name is Thorn and I'm part of the DelaFit team. We certainly hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far, and we'll be getting right back to it in just a few. I just wanted to let you all know that you can go to our website, www.delafitpodcast.com, to learn more about us and our host, SunMoon Bey. You should also follow us on social media for all the latest information on featured guests, show topics, and all of 360 degrees of fitness and health tips and information. On Facebook and Twitter, we're at DelaFit Podcast, and on Instagram, we're at DE_LA_Fit Podcast. Thank you and have a wonderfully fit and healthy day.
Oh, I wish, and again, everything that happened to me, I tried to protect my son from. So at the age of 3, I was telling my son, I was teaching him about his private and his areas that people don't touch. And so I'd say, if somebody touches you here, that's no, but I tried to counter if an adult were to come back and say that, your mom's going to kill me if you tell her. And so I would say, and don't worry, if they do touch you there, you just tell mommy and I'll talk to them and we'll go take them for ice cream and just to make it positive. And he's like, okay. And so, but I did that because I didn't want him to believe a lie that an adult would say that I would do something to harm them if, if something there happened. So I would ask him every so often then after that, anybody touch, and I call it pinky winky, and I know he's probably embarrassed. You might touch your little pinky winky, and he's like, no, mommy. And I'm like, okay. And so we got on, I think all the way to he was 8 or 9, and I was like, nobody's, messing with you, touching pinky winky. He's like, Mom, be quiet. No. He's like, no. I'm like, and so it was, for me, being touched at the early age of 6 by an older sibling and still not having that conversation about sex with my parents, or them telling me that no one's supposed to be touching me there. I instinctively felt it was wrong because she had to harm me to get me to that point. But I didn't. Kids should know, even just starting out in kindergarten, because it's just, there's a lot of hormones running around anyways, and them discovering their bodies and things like that. I just feel like it should be talked about in a way that's age appropriate, at every stage. So I'm very passionate about that. I just really feel like we need to change some laws, but we need to get parents to understand too. Like, yes, you may parent your child in this way, but some kids who are growing up in the foster care system, or just they don't get those talks. We can't just leave out those kids. So everyone needs to have an opportunity to know and to learn.
Mm-hmm. And I think that they do learn through forums like this, and you're absolutely right, and parents that I know, the number of people who have experienced trauma of this nature is way greater than you would think, way greater. And I will say that, a lot of it, I've known a lot of men who have experienced trauma, like the sexual nature of a molestation nature, and they are also hypervigilant with their kids and with their little boys. And it's it's a real tough thing to come to grips with. And sometimes you don't even talk about it until you're well into your 30s, 40s, 50s. And then all of a sudden, you start to feel the need to talk about it, or it's when you have a child, and I agree. And I love what you're saying about, getting into the foster care system, because they don't have, they have varying levels of advocates. If you're in a good system or with good people or good foster parents, you might have some of this, but I'd say for the most part, it's a broken system, and I don't know how you be an advocate. I love SunMoon, what you were sharing about. I hope you get back to working with those kids, because at any age, someone can be mentored, and that person can make a difference that lasts a lifetime. It doesn't take a lot, at any age. And I've done some work in that system too. And it just, when you are with a kid and all of a sudden they get to become a kid, and some of the horrors they've been through, and all of a sudden they're just a little boy or a little girl instead of that tensed up person that's trying to defend against anyone getting too close.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful experience. And it feels like, in that moment, it matters, and all we can do is give the moments as they arise. It's doing this, but it's also being very present to any opportunity that comes your way. It could be a kid next door that doesn't have a dad living in his house, that, you go over and you mentor him, but then you got to be careful too, because people think things, just letting the parents know that, hey, I'm here for, anyway, I think it's a complicated thing, because you never want someone to suspect you of doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But I love what you're saying, Brydy. We need to talk to our kids at whatever level, adjust our conversation to their age and to their mental ability and their capacity and what they're exposed to.
Yeah, I always say I can see a kid who has been through something, and or maybe going through something, because they become withdrawn. And you can see, like, I look at some 7-year-old girls, like even 6-year-old girls, and they're just running around without a care in the world, and have this innocence, and they're happy, and they don't understand life as we know it, like, that could be hurtful, because they haven't experienced that. But then you can tell the ones who have, because they're withdrawn, they're quiet, they're timid, they're careful. But my heart, if you're an adult who has gone through the foster care system and you're listening to this right now, I just want to encourage you. I know that your situation was it was tragic. It was probably there were probably some things that you experienced going through that system. Maybe you felt like a check child, where people were just passing you from home to home because they were receiving checks, but they weren't really taking care of you. They weren't loving on you. I want to let you know that you can get through that today too. If you're dealing with, maybe you're not dealing with the STI or STD, but you're dealing with some type of trauma of molestation, you're dealing with being physically harmed and abused. Maybe they withheld food from you, whatever it was. Maybe you got bullied by the other kids in the foster care home. Whatever it is, you can get through it, because I got through it. And if you want to know how, and you want to contact me, I always encourage everyone. We have some great hotlines with, if you're experiencing like any suicidal thoughts or just anything like that. It's on my website, Brydy Lynn Kelly. So it's BYRDYLYNNKELLEY. Forgot to spell the same.com. And go on there, reach out to me, and we'll talk about it. And I'll direct you to some professional resources as well. Just like Dr. Jeanne, that's here with us today. She's here to help. We all care. It's not too late to let go of that trauma that you experienced in childhood. I want to let every adult know that has maybe mentally blocked it out. Whatever type of abuse or trauma it was, you can get through it. And I just want to encourage you. Your chapter of empowerment begins today. So you're hearing this, go out there and, be shameless, be fearless, and be free.
Dr. Jeanne, thank you for joining us today. Please leave your information or tell everybody where they can reach you, contact you to get the benefit of your knowledge and your experience and just your skills.
I really, really have to say, I love the conversation with the two of you. You're very real, you're very committed, you're very passionate, you're out there. What I want to say is doing your work or stepping into your calling. And I think if each one of us can take that, and it doesn't have to be some grandiose thing, it's a moment by moment encounter that you have with another human being, or even another animal. I don't know. It's just being in that place of caring for and loving and being present with and having the conversations. And I think, God bless it, wouldn't the world be a better place if we could all just show up for each other?
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
All right, everybody. We're going to end this. Oh, wait, Dr. G, where can they contact you? Where can
you got her, Dr. G? Her name is not Dr.
I said
G.
Dr.
It's
Jeanne. Dr. Jeanne. That's what I said.
Okay, my bad.
Thank you for that, SunMoon. I guess the best way, if anyone has any relational questions, I have a website that's Living and Loving Courageously, and I have some articles I write and stuff like that. But if anyone has something personal that they want to just reach out, you can contact me at drjeanne@outlook.com. That's DRJEANNE at Outlook, or my website, Living and Loving Courageously, and there's a place to contact me there too. There's something that I have a little ebook there on the 10 things you can do to strengthen your relationship, and it works for you. It's really about mindset, whether you're in relationship or not in relationship. It's just, again, it's all about how you show up. So thank you so much
for reading my book. I do hope and pray that you get a chance to finish it, and I love your thoughts on it. Currently I'm writing part 2.
Yeah. Well, thank you for putting yourself out there and telling your story, because it does take great courage. It's a very intimate story and a very vulnerable story, but you know what? You demonstrate to other people how to be courageous, and SunMoon, you do too. So
thank you. Yes, you do.
Thank
you, because SunMoon, I have to recognize the fact that this is a very courageous move on your part, because your podcast show is about working out, physical fitness, and the mental side of physical fitness, correct?
It's actually about everything. That's
everything.
Okay. Everything.
Okay.
We don't focus on just the physical, because we found out that health isn't everything we do. There is no way to survive on this planet without being healthy, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual. You're not going to succeed. It's just not going to happen. And we're seeing it right now. There are people, there's so much trauma out there. There's a better way, and that's why I do the podcast. So this fits right into what our mantra is and the belief system, that everything is health. It's a 360-degree circle. So
love it. Well, thank you for being courageous and taking on this topic.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you.
And for letting us be in your circle.
Yes.
Look, listen, I am blessed to be able to have this conversation with 2 amazing individuals. And for anybody out there listening, I hope that you were able to take away the positive that was put out today. Please get help. Help yourself. You are not a throwaway. You are not a lost cause. And there's definitely hope for you. Hope springs eternal. And that is the most truest sense of the word. I don't care what age you are. There's always hope. Please do not give up hope. So with that being said, be happy, be healthy. Thank you to our guests, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, or whatever it is that you're having.